Your school is literally dumbing you down in terms of creative potential. One of my most favorite lines on creativity is that you don't grow into creativity, you grow out of it. And by the time that you're an adult, most of your creativity is flushed down the drain. So there were these two NASA engineers, Dr. George Land and Dr. Beth Jasmine, and they had made this test for engineers, and they wanted to rank their engineers before hiring them that what is their creative potential. And the key part is they did this study, the same test they gave to 1600 students between ages 4 and 5. And when they gave this test to 1600 students within ages 4 and 5, kids ages between 4 and 5, 98% of them scored really well on the test. Like 98% of them had some really genius level creative potential. And what they did is they did this follow-up study. So by the time that the same 1600 students, when they were in grad school, so same 1600 students, 4 to 5, now they're in grade school, their creative potential had gone down from 98% to 30%. This is shocking. But what's even shocking is that by the time that they went into high school, same children, their creative potential is down to 12%. And what's even more shocking is that by the time that they're in adults, can you guess what their creative potential is? What their score on the test was? 2%. That's what they scored. So basically what this test shows us is that as you're growing, now can there be other influences? Yes. But as you're growing through school, there have been certain other tests and studies as well, which provide us with certain data that as you are growing through this system, this educational system that we are so talking about in such positive terms, that was a joke. You're dumbed down in terms of your creative potential. They're literally beating it out of you. Now, before we talk about why creativity is so important and why schools kill it, welcome to our multi-part series on why the education system is setting you up to fail. My name is Armughan and you're watching TruthQuest, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about how and why schools kill your creativity. Now, you might be thinking, why are we even talking about creativity? Why is it important? And fairly simple answer is, where do new answers come from? Where do innovations come from? And what is it that drives not just our economic world, but what is it that drives our life? What is it that drives the scientific method? What is it that was the driving force behind the scientific age of enlightenment, thanks to which we have seen such great progress in the human condition? There's only one thing. It's new answers to previous questions. And it's also, you keep asking more questions, but the new questions only come before you give new answers, new, better, improved answers to answers which are, in David Deutsch terms, I think he calls it answers which are difficult to vary these answers to previously existing problems. And where do those answers come from? Creativity. You need to have that creative potential, because the definition of creativity is new ideas, new answers to existing problems. It's an idea that it's a novel idea, it's a new idea. And basically there's also this understanding of creativity on the level of the brain, and that is, creativity is, they call it, when you are more fearful, you're actually the scope of where your brain can search for ideas is very limited. It's like when you're more in flow, flow is defined as the state of effortless action. When you're more into that state, and when you're more calm generally, and when you're more less stressed, your brain can actually search for a farther area, its surface area for searching for ideas actually grows. And when that happens, it can also see connections between ideas where there was not a connection before. So in this sense, creativity is your ability to see connections to already existing ideas. So the ideas were already there, but you saw these connections which was not there, and you're like, Eureka, I didn't see this, right? And this is how innovations happen. This is how we build new things. This is how we create new theories. It is all based on one thing only, and that is creativity. And schools happen to just beat it out of you. School happen to just basically they keep flushing it down the drain. So the more of an intellectual, the more of an academic intellectual, I would say, that you become, the less creative potential I think that you actually have. Because, and it's not to say that it is like this is a formula that applies to everyone. I can't make that claim because there's not enough data to make that claim, but there's enough data to make the claim that the more you are progressing in the academic situation, in the public system of education, in the education system, the less creative your creative potential, your creativity is actually going down, and you are actually becoming less and less and less creative. Now you might be thinking, why does this happen? Why does it happen? So because schools are all about learning, right? Schools are all about learning answers. Exactly. Schools are all about learning answers. They're not about finding new answers. They're about learning the answer that your teacher, your principal, your headmaster, anyone gives to you. It's not about finding your new answers. When was the last time that you solved a math problem in your own way, in your own you try to form a new method and you were actually praised for it? None, right? When was the last time that you actually failed on a test and you were actually praised for it? It doesn't happen. In fact, you're actually done the very opposite of praise. It's like you're ridiculed for it. So that is where exactly the problem starts. And I think Albert Einstein or somebody else said it the best when he said that the purpose of learning is not to fill the mind with what to think. It's to teach it how to think. And school don't teach us how to think, they teach us what to think. For example, they give you answers to questions, and those are the answers that you must rely on. There is no question. You don't know, you don't find new answers, you don't come up with new answers. It's a no when it comes to school, when it comes to not just, and when I'm talking about the word school, let me clarify this, it also means high school, it also means universities. If there are rules, there's such great rules, and if you don't comply by them, you're a failure. And actually based on this, another great things that school do, which is actually a big component of flushing your creativity down the drain, is they ridicule failure. They actually as we talked about in the previous video, if you have not seen the previous video, I'll highly suggest go see that, when we were talking about the history of the education system. It's based on industrialization, right? And when it comes to industrialization or becoming a worker is not about thinking. It's about doing the work. You're not supposed to think. You're not supposed to come up with new answers. Just do it. But in the real world, that was the industrial world. But now we need new answers. We need creativity. We need creative potential. That's how we come up with new answers. That's how the world moves ahead. So another reason that school actually beat it out of you is because they discourage failure. And why is failure so important to creativity? It's important because if you're not willing to fail, you cannot actually come up with something original, something new. And this is where it is actually like it's completely opposite design to what a good creative person would do. Because what do you think that when Edison was coming up with his light bulb, I know Edison is not that good of an example. Some people have some things against his character, and that's okay. But when he was coming up with his this idea for a light bulb, was he successful the first time? Was he such a genius to make a perfect light bulb the first time? No, he was not. He had to actually try in some of his codes. He says that I have to actually try 999 times, and I actually succeeded the 1,000th time. And no matter how much of a genius anybody is, no matter how much Einstein or Hawking or whatever else person that you are, Elon Musk, you might be thinking, or Steve Jobs, it's like, has it ever happened in the history of these people, in the history of these giants, that they just created a product or created a formula or created a theory for the first time, and it was like absolutely intelligent, and it actually really it took the world by a bomb. It didn't. In fact, the theory or the formula or the product, it itself, it bombed. So it's not that. So it's so essential, because the person who is a creative person is a person who's just willing to fail and try again and again. Schools actually tell you the opposite of it. Schools actually tell you don't fail, because if you fail in an exam, it's very bad, because what would other people think? I mean all the pressure, all the social pressure that you get, not just from the environment of the school, but the people from your life, basically your family, and especially in the Eastern cultures, it's like it's such a, yeah, it's hell, literally, because everybody's asking you for your grades, everybody's asking you what grade you got, and based on your grade they'll judge you. Based on that grade they'll say what's up. Like, I mean, such it's literally, when I say hell, I mean it. It's hell for people who cannot perform well uh, in the domain of grades. So that is actually the opposite training. So you are actually training down the ability to fail, the capacity for being wrong. And if you don't have the capacity to be wrong, I've noticed this in my classrooms as well. That when I'm in a classroom and the teachers ask something, everybody's quiet. If they don't know the answer, they're quiet. They won't even try. They won't even give the wrong answer. They won't even they'll just don't try. Shut up. Because it's like, it's on their self-esteem that what if I give a wrong answer? What will people think of me? My teacher will think I'm a stupid person. So that is actually the training that schools have done. That is actually the training that they have done upon you, that wrong answers are no answers. Hence, if you don't have an answer, keep quiet. The only true answer is the one I tell you. The only true answer is, the only true things to study, the only true subjects to study are the ones which I tell you. You know, all the basic hierarchy of subjects, I feel everywhere is the same. Sir Ken Robinson talks about this in his very famous talk. The idea and the title is also inspired from his talk, which is Schools Skill Creativity. And that is where he talks about that the hierarchy of subjects everywhere, on every university, is like, it's the same. It's like intellectual subjects like maths and science, and they come on top, and then there's arts, and I feel it was natural sciences, then social sciences, and on the very bottom there were arts. So if you're studying a social science, people will think that, okay, you're not as good as a person who's studying natural science is. And if you're studying arts, and even arts, in arts, I think he said that music and one other thing are on top, and drama and things like that, they were like literally the bottom. So the hierarchy of the subjects is the same. And why is there a hierarchy of subjects in the first place? If you understand the history, you know, because these are the subjects which actually train you to be well in the industrial era, in the industrial world. So with that said, let's move on to the next thing. And then the next thing is, the first thing that you realize is failure is very important if you become creative, and schools actually train you in the opposite direction. The next thing is, school actually conform you. School actually make this sense of competition, and in this sense of competition there comes conformity, and conformity is the enemy of creativity. Because think about it, if you want to come up with a new idea, in the very word the new idea, it means an idea that hasn't been discussed before, an idea that wasn't there before. It's a blind spot and nobody's looking there, and you're like, hey guys, look, found it, right? It's like the eureka moment. It's like an epiphany. You have that epiphany when you look where nobody else is looking. So the reason, and you cannot have that if you are always taught to look in the same place that everybody else is. People might and that is exactly what happens in school. There's a class of 40 different students. Everybody has different potentials. Everybody is a different human being in himself, in him or herself, and everybody's taught what? Mathematics. Is that a joke? Because there are some people in the class who might take mathematics very good. They might be very good at mathematics. They might be naturally born mathematician. But there are also people who just don't have that kind of intelligence where they can where they can perceive mathematics in the same way. And I'm not saying that these people are dumb. I'm saying that these people are very intelligent, just in a different domain, because there are different types of intelligence. Now, I'll give you my example. I'm not good at visual intelligence. I'm good at, in certain areas, I'm not good at shapes and figures. And whenever I see a painting, it to me it seems like magic, because I'm not good at those things. And when I see somebody drawing, to me it seems like, it's like, wow, I mean, how do you do it? And they're like, okay, it's like, it's easy, you draw this and draw this. And I'm like, no, no, no. How do you do this? Like, I can't. So I'm not good in that area of intelligence. A painter, an artist, an illustrator is very good. What I'm good at is words. I'm good at with words. I'm good at this, what I'm doing right now. I'm good at sharing my ideas, formulating these concepts, and talking about them. I'm good at that. So I'm intelligent in this domain, but not. And basically, I think 12 different types of intelligence, and we only in school we're only measuring one, and I feel that is what you can call academic intelligence to some extent. And based on that, we are actually judging all these different species that are actually sitting in front of us. And when I say species, I'm borrowing from Albert Einstein quote, and he said that what actually the education system does is I forget the quote exactly, but I'm paraphrasing that. What the education system does is that there's a fish and there's an elephant and there's a monkey, and then there's all these like different species, and and they say that in order to have a fair competition, all of you must climb that tree, and whoever climbs the fastest is going to win. That is an example of conformity. That now a fish is not good at climbing a tree. Does that mean it's not a fish is not creative in that sense? A fish is not good in what a fish does? No. But the school system will tell you yes. They will tell the fish gets an F because it cannot actually take the test that we are giving it. It's exactly what is happening. So if you have ever failed in a test, well done. That means that you're a different species. That doesn't mean that you're wrong. That doesn't mean that you're less intelligent than any of the other people, that you're seemingly competing with. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you're differently intelligent. It just means that you're different in the sense that you see the world, and your intelligence work or your mind works in a different domain. And that's completely okay. We don't need to have one kind of meal to eat every single day. We need different kind of meals. That's how the world works. And conformity is actually, school is actually training you against it, against your creative potential. Now, and one of the example of conformity, as we talked about, is testing. The whole idea of standardized testing is one, conformity. Second is, what standardized tests are about is not becoming creative. It's not about forming new answers. It's about regurgitating the same answer that your teachers have already told you. It's about in the very crude form, in the very worst forms. It's about, I know of schools who say that make it exactly the same, line by line, word by word. What is that? Are you actually training? This is literally, you're turning people into a robot. You're turning these creative geniuses that actually come to you, and one of them is a dancer, one of them is an artist. And I mean, the conformity part is actually like you're worsening it even there, but you're actually messing it up even there. But when you say line by line, word by word, you're basically telling them don't think, become a slave. And the best way to make someone a slave is to make them a slave of your thoughts, not put a chain around their neck. It's more about, if you can make people slaves of your thoughts, and if you can impart your ideas in a way that people become total slave, and that's all they can think, you've won. So you're actually making them. School is actually making you a slave in this sense, that when it says this is the worst, this is like the worst form of this. The higher form is, yes, you can come up with your own words, and you can write your own sentences, and this is what they encourage as well. It's like, don't actually regurgitate the same notes that I give you or stuff like that, but actually make up your own. So that is actually good, but still, same material, same answer. It's like you're just paraphrasing them in a different way. So with that said, the standardized testing model is not about coming up with new answers. It's not about divergence thinking. It's about convergent thinking. There's one answer, go to it, do it again and again until you're basically a robot and you can do it without thinking. So it's actually working against it. And the last part I want to talk about in this edition of our multi-part series is convergence versus divergence thinking. Convergent thinking is what most of the IQ tests in the world are based on. Convergence thinking is when you are actually it's like you're converging. There are all these different questions and you're actually leading to one answer. And that is how we judge a person to be intelligent. When we usually use the word that this person is in a class, you use the word that this person is very intelligent, this person is doing very good. It's basically you're saying that his ability to think converge in convergence, in convergent thinking is very good. I mean, he can come up with answers, or he can lead to a single answer very good. That's good. That's IQ. We need that. We need convergence thinking. But what we also need is divergence thinking, and this is what is actually lacking in the world of education system. And that divergence thinking is completely different. It's the completely opposite of convergence thinking. Convergence thinking is leading to one answer. Divergence thinking is leading to a possibility, a whole array of answers. And more creativity actually doesn't come from when you lead to one answer, one conclusion, one point. It's actually when you lead to a lot of different possibilities, when you can entertain a lot of different possibilities in your mind and you can see the connection between them, right? We talked about the brain and how the brain sees these connections, and the more surface area it has between ideas and the more connections that it can make, the better it would be, the more creative you could be. Now, with that said, most of the academic intellectuals are convergent thinkers. They are basically, I love how Sir Ken Robinson explains this, that they are basically, they're trained to think up and slightly to one side. They're basically dead from the neck down. So academic intellectuals are basically dead from the neck down. Creativity doesn't live up here. It's a very dynamic process. It's a very dynamic process that involves your physiology. For example, a very simple example is dance. Can you be an academic intellectual and a dancer at the same time? I highly doubt it. I don't think it's possible at all. I might write a research paper about it. That's me being an academic intellectual. God save me. So the thing is, there's all these different form of intelligences, all these different form of creativity, but all that the school is training you is up from here, slightly to one side. And the whole purpose, it seems as if, again, I'm borrowing from Ken Robinson when I say that the whole purpose of the education system seems to be to produce university professors. And university professors are actually academic intellectuals, and academic intellectuals are actually dead from the neck down. They think up, and it's like they're slightly to one side. And Sir Ken Robinson actually jokes about is that they say that they view their body as a vehicle to carry their brains to meetings. So actually creativity is very different. Creativity is in all these different domains. And it's like if you're an actor and you don't know how to use your body to communicate feelings, it doesn't happen. You won't be a good actor. If you are a painter and you cannot, all you can see is mathematical formulas and not shapes and figures and colors, what good of a painter are you? So actually, schools, to sum it up, schools make you convergent, make you more of a convergent thinker. They lead you into conformity, and they actually discourage failure. All of them which line up against creativity, and I feel that is why we see those creativity numbers dropping from 98% to actually the very worst 2% from when you go from 5 years of age to actually becoming an adult. So with that said, if you have not subscribed to my newsletter called Truth Thursday, where I send bite-sized wisdom to help you become a better human being, the link to subscribe to that is down below. And I'm going to see you in the next video next week, the next addition to this multi-part series, where we're going to discuss why C-grade students are better than A-grade students. See you there. Until then, take care. If you have enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to watch this video on my side. It also relates to physics, philosophy, and personal development. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Continue seeking truth and become a truth seeker.